For Rocky 3, Sylvester Stallone brought his leanest ever physique, claiming he got all the way down to 2.9% body fat. But the way he went about building this physique was completely insane, and even Sylvester himself would later describe the process as very dangerous. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly how Sylvester got so dangerously ripped for Rocky 3, and I'll be giving you all the information you need to get ripped like Rocky, but in a much safer, smarter way. And that'll include a full workout program based off his training that you can use yourself. The process that got Sylvester Stallone ripped for Rocky 3 actually started while he was training for Rocky 2. This is when he started training with bodybuilding legend and Mr. Olympia champion Franco Colombo. For Rocky 2, Sylvester and Franco were training partners, and they pushed each other insanely hard in the gym. The competition actually got so intense that at one point during a bench press competition, Sylvester pushed himself so hard that he severely tore his right pec. This is actually why Sylvester has those big chest tattoos, to cover up the scars from that incident. Injuries aside, we can definitely see that their training paid off, because in Rocky 2, Sylvester is looking much more muscular than he did in the original Rocky. He's by no means ripped in Rocky 2, but spending the time building up that muscle mass would pay off big time when Rocky 3 came around. Because you see, for Rocky 3, Sylvester spent 10 months dropping 30 pounds of weight, so pretty much his entire Rocky 3 prep was dedicated to getting as lean as possible. And of course this meant he was staying in a caloric deficit, meaning he was burning more calories than he was eating each day, which led to his body burning fat to make up for this energy deficit. While you're in this type of calorie deficit, you're not going to be able to build very much muscle. And while you're cutting, your main focus should actually just be on not losing any muscle mass. But we'll talk more on that later. This means that if Sylvester hadn't invested the time during his Rocky 2 prep to build muscle while at a higher body fat percentage, then we never would have gotten such an impressive physique for Rocky 3. So if you want to get ripped up like Rocky, but you're pretty new to working out and don't have much muscle mass, then step 1 for you should be to dedicate 6 to 12 months to building as much muscle mass as possible before starting the process of cutting down and losing fat, which we'll cover next. If you skip this first step and go straight to cutting down, you'll just end up looking really thin and meek, which I don't think is really anyone's goal. So after Sylvester packed on some size for Rocky 2, it was now time to start the process of cutting down for Rocky 3, which included the use of an absolutely insanely high volume training plan and a dangerously restrictive diet. Sylvester says that to get down to his absolute lowest body fat of 2.9%, he would just eat small handfuls of oatmeal cookies, a bit of canned tuna, and up to, wait for it, 25 cups of coffee with honey each day. Now this diet is obviously messed up for a whole lot of reasons. It's way too low in protein to optimally prevent muscle catabolism while in this large of a calorie deficit. He's pretty much getting all his calories from the honey in his coffee, which is a very strange choice. Oh yeah, and also, he drank 25 cups of coffee a day. That means he was having about 1.5 coffees per waking hour if he slept 8 hours, which, let's be honest, if he was drinking that much caffeine, he definitely wasn't sleeping 8 hours. Between this diet and Sylvester's insane training, which we'll get to in a second, he would get so lightheaded while shooting fight scenes, he would have to do handstands in the corner of the boxing ring to try to get some blood back into his brain. Unfortunately, I don't think anyone told Sylvester that's not really how that works. Now, do I really think Sylvester actually followed this diet, or was he just being hyperbolic? Maybe he followed it for a few days or maybe a couple weeks, but there's no way this insane diet is representative of a very large percentage of what his diet looked like during the 10 months he took to prep for Rocky 3. During his prep for Rambo 3, a few years later, Sylvester says that he mostly ate grilled chicken and veggies. And this sounds like a slightly more realistic, if not still a suboptimal diet for him to be following. So I'm sure during Rocky 3, he was doing something more similar to this. Now the key to cutting weight is making sure you're losing as much fat as possible while losing as little muscle mass as possible. To do this, there are 3 main things you need to focus on. Eating enough protein to stave off the muscle protein breakdown that happens at an accelerated rate while you're in a calorie deficit. So how much protein is enough? 1 gram of protein per pound of body mass is a good goal to shoot for. Next thing you want to do is continue lifting weights while you're cutting down, as this will signal to your body that it still needs the muscle mass that you've built and can't afford to break it down. And finally, you need to make sure that you're not in too large of a calorie deficit, because if you're barely eating any food, you won't have any energy to lift. And also, when you're in such an extreme calorie deficit, it's incredibly stressful on your body, which increases levels of stress hormones like cortisol. Cortisol is pretty much the enemy of testosterone, so if your cortisol spikes, your testosterone will drop. Next up, we're going to be talking about Sylvester's insane training plan and his steroid use. But first, we got to talk about my partners over at SuperX. They make the world's most badass workout apparel. They've got designs based off all your favorite heroes, and their products are super high quality. They've got thousands of 5-star reviews from across the globe, so you know it's good stuff. They're always coming out with sick new designs, but everything is done with limited runs. So if you see something you like, you have to grab it fast by using the link down in the description of this video, and then use code DEMERCE for 20% off your first order. It's a great way to support the channel while getting some world-class workout gear. Now back to the video. For Rocky 3, Sylvester kept training with Mr. Olympia champion Franco Colombo. Franco had Sly performing a bodybuilding routine where he would train twice a day, focusing on 1 to 2 muscle groups in the morning and 1 to 2 muscle groups in the evening. But of course, you can't prep for a Rocky movie without tons of boxing and cardio training as well. So Sly would also do a 3-mile run, get in the ring for 15 rounds of sparring, do a 1,000 rep abs circuit, and crush some skipping along with his morning workout. Then in the afternoon, he would eat and take a nap before heading back to the gym for his second bodybuilding workout, and sometimes he would also either go for a run or a long swim as well in the evenings. This program is absolutely insane and not something you should ever try to do yourself. Like I said before, the goal while cutting weight is to lose as much fat as possible while losing as little muscle as possible. And to do that, you need to keep lifting. But you actually don't need to do an insane amount of training volume to maintain your muscle mass while cutting down. 8 to 12 sets per muscle group per week will be plenty. And doing way more than that can actually put unnecessary levels of stress on your system. Again, increasing levels of stress hormones like cortisol. Now, this is the case for a natural lifter, but things change once you introduce performance-enhancing drugs. Now, Sylvester wasn't just an actor, writer, and director. He was, and still is, an incredible athlete with an unbreakable will. But it's clear that Sylvester's competitiveness and his addiction to exercise had him pushing himself to his absolute limit. And Sly is not the kind of guy who limits himself. So I believe this mindset pushed him to use performance-enhancing drugs. You simply can't handle this much training volume with this little food while holding on to all your lean muscle mass unless you're taking some sort of muscle-sparing compound. But back in the day, this kind of stuff was legal, and Sylvester was most likely working with a doctor while he was taking it. This whole process definitely was still terrible for his general health, and is not something I'd ever recommend, but you have to admire his commitment to his craft. Now I've created a 5-day-week bodybuilding plan based off of Sylvester's training for Rocky 3, and you can download it using the link in the description of this video. And if you want to get ripped like Sylvester, you're gonna have to be tracking your nutrition. But luckily for you, I've created a video showing you exactly how to do that. So make sure to watch that next, and I'll see you there.